Well, hey there. Fancy meeting you guys. So, this stream is an update to a stream we did the other day when I was attempting to make my own hatchet. If you remember, we made an axe for my older brother with a skull in the hilt, covered in epoxy. We're going to have to fill. There's a small crack in the back we're going to have to fill. And we're going to look and see if in our barn, our polyurethane is too cold. Does it look better if it's tucked in? Let's see. I don't know. It doesn't offer the same amount of protection. Anyways, so we finished building the hatchet. Here it is. It's handmade. So for those of you that didn't stay to see me finish it, here it is. This was the old handle. Psh, look at that garbage. It's terrible. Ooh, look at that one. Hand carved, hand built. The whole thing is hand carved. Very time consuming. Good for single strike, and it's long enough where you can get two hands if you need to. I think it turned out pretty good, if you ask me. So now we're going to go, and now that I've burned it, we've oiled it up a couple times, we're going to start working with some polyurethane and epoxy and get a few coats on it. So I'm going to treat the, by the way, guys, I'm going to do a separate stream after this, a gaming stream. This one is just an update because I had to finish it because I have to give this to my brothers on Christmas, and I'm not done yet. So I want to tinker a little bit today and give it 3 days to dry. So for the next few minutes, if you so do, oh, by the way, my wife made me this bib. I've been wanting a leather apron for a long time, and it had this leather coat my dad gave me a long time ago, and it was too big, and I didn't want to get rid of it. I was like, I want to harvest the leather. Maybe I can make an apron out of it. And as a Christmas present, she made this apron out of my dad's old leather jacket, which I think is fantastic. I love it. All right, so I need to think for a minute. I think I'm going to go in and start mixing the epoxy. So we have two different ones. We have our resin and then our hardener. So one is basically the glue, and the other one makes it hard. That's the best way I can describe it. And because we need to do both the axe and the hatchet, we got a little bit of work we have to finish up today. Now, I've made an absolute mess. Just to show you the kind of shit I've been doing the last couple of days. Look at this. Look at this fucking mess I made. Here's my little workstation. Look at this. Now you go, that's not too bad. Look at the fucking floor. That is me hand carving everything. Look at that mess, dude. That's a mess. That's a mess. All right. My little workstation is destroyed. Everything is beat to hell. And I feel terrible. But I'm glad you're here with me. Okay, anyways, I'll put you right here for right now. Hope it doesn't fall. And we're going to think for a minute. Sorry, guys, I got the sniffles in here. It's also very cold. I'm curious. Let me. How can I rotate this bad boy? Yes, I can. All right, let's take a quick peek. I think I have some foam brushes. I'm gonna need that. I don't have any foam brushes left. Wait. Nope, that's a used one. We don't need that. Thank you, Pimpin. Yes, very much Viking. All right, we have some foam. I guess I'll wait. Fuck it, I use a regular paintbrush. So we're going to use a paintbrush to paint on epoxy, which you're not going to see a lot of people do because it's not recommended. But I do things the way I want to do them. This angle's bad. Let me put you way over here. I think it turned out pretty good. I did the wedge at a bit of an angle. So I'm going to fill the head with epoxy, and then we're going to do a light coating of epoxy over top of the wood. We're going to treat it like a polyurethane to treat the wood. And then we can do like a light sanding. I want to seal it. I want to seal the wood. Pretty sharp. I sharpened it. You can see that edge. You see how it's dull and kind of rusty? That edge was dull and rusty, and I cleaned that up. I did that. Same thing on the other end. See where it's all shiny? That's me sanding off the rust and sharpening it. Pretty sharp. Granted, just not as sharp as like a Japanese saw, pull saw or something, but sharp enough to do what a hatchet's supposed to do. You know what I mean? I'm going to move a couple things out of my way real quick. Why not take you on that journey? You go there. You go there, Mr. Hammer. There's my rubber mallet I made. Come over here, dead blow hammer. Symmetry. Okay. My draw knife, this is what I used. This is what I used to hand carve that handle right there. You put the wood in and then you use it to drag across the blade. Yes, it does, Kovrick. You're absolutely right. It's a good question. If you're genuinely curious, I will tell you. So this is a rubber mallet. The head of it's rubber, the handle is wood. The idea of a rubber mallet is used to, you know, if you're closing a paint can, notice there's paint on it. It is used for basic application, not hammering anything metal. If you're tamping wood together, you need to basically hit something with pressure without breaking it. A rubber mallet's good for that. This is just another rubber mallet. This is what's called a dead blow. A dead blow hammer is good for wood. So what happens with most hammers, like a rubber mallet, if you swing and hit something, it's going to bounce. See how it wiggles, it wobbles, it bounces. So whatever you hit, that impact comes back into the hammer. So it's bang, bang. A dead blow are full of sand. It could be a number of things. When you hit, it absorbs. So as you throw the hammer, it's full of sand. That sand comes to one end. So you would normally use this if I have two pieces of wood that I need to wedge together very hard, but I don't want to damage the wood. I would use this dead blow. So no bounce at all. Called a dead blow. I use it all the time. That's a mini sledge, 3-pound sledgehammer used for heavy application. There's another longer mini sledge, not a ball peen, it has a name for it. It has a flat end and a heavy end. I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me. But yes, they all have their own application. Here's a wooden mallet I made. Again, for working with wood, when you're woodworking, when you want to tamp wood together, wood on wood. I made this one. I also made this big guy back here. I made that wood mallet. I make a lot of shit. I like making stuff. Not great at it, but I enjoy doing it. And right now, I'm going to, and I burned this handle, so just to show you the difference in the wood, this is what the wood, this is the same wood. So, and believe it or not, if you were at the first stream, this wood is this wood. Hold on. This old cedar I have, that's what this came from. So I took this old piece of cedar, cut it up, shaved it down into this, hand carved it. No machinery, no tools, just hand carving. And then I burned it with a torch. And then now I'm going to seal it. So the wood never goes bad, I guess. I don't know. I just like what epoxy does. It gives things longevity. That's why if you notice a lot of my hammers, the handles are shiny because I put polyurethane and things like that on it. So this won't be a very long stream. Again, I'm going to come back after this and do another stream, but I need to start getting this epoxy done. So I need to think for just a second how I'm going to go about this. Because I have to do this one as well. First thing I do need to do is wipe this little station up because it is covered in sawdust from yesterday. So I'm going to use this old nasty napkin. Just give myself a little bit of a cleaner area. Because if I mix epoxy out here, which is fine, and leave it sit in my barn, which is not heated, overnight, it'll harden, but it'll be like crispy. It won't harden like a rock. Like I use this cup to mix epoxy in, this lid. You see that? That's epoxy. It's about an inch of epoxy in there. It's hard as a rock, but it looks clear like glass. So it's probably about halfway up in this cup. That's epoxy. This head, I put the skull in. This is epoxy. Hard as a rock. This is the axe I made for my brother, this double-headed axe. I'm not, I don't think I can make a sword. I'm not that type of, I can make a sword's handle, but the actual blade itself, I'm not that skilled. I don't have those types of skills, unfortunately. So let's put on some gloves. And we'll start mixing, how am I going to store that? I'm going to move my nasty towel. All right, let's start mixing our epoxy real quick. Like I said, it's going to be a shorter stream, and then here in a little bit, we'll go back and I'm going to do a regular stream. I got some pretty cool horror-themed Christmas games that we're going to jump into tonight for those that want to participate. But how's your day going, Kovric? How's life treating you, my babies? So I kept this epoxy in my house so it stays warm. I'm going to do a decent amount here. And then the cool thing about epoxy, it's what we call a 50-50, meaning whatever I put into cup A, I put the exact amount in cup B. I don't have to worry about doing any crazy measurements. As long as they have the same amount of each, it mixes. At least this epoxy. Some epoxy is different. I buy the stuff that's idiot-proof. I'm just trying to get it even. So that's why I'm leaning like this. You guys can't see what I'm doing, which of course is the best kind of streaming content when you can't see 80% of what's happening. I don't melt my own iron. That's kind of what I was talking about. I'm not a smith, I don't have a forge or anything. That is something I would ultimately like to do, but right now I'm just an amateur woodworker who likes doing stuff with epoxy. So I'm pouring in the epoxy. This is A. This is the resin part. This is the part. This is the stickiness. I guess it's all sticky, but this is the resin. This is what gives it a lot of it's two parts. Epoxy's always, well, not all epoxy, but the vast majority of epoxy is always in two parts. You have your adhesive, the sticky stuff, and then you have the stuff that hardens it. The interesting part is getting it all out of the cup. Okay. That's all in the cup. Now we're going to pour our B, which is our hardener. This is what hardens the epoxy. So we'll scrape the cup out. Shouldn't take me too long. I'm just going to get the rest of it out of here. Okay. What's all that black shit? What the fuck? Damn it. Well, I don't care. There's black chunks. in the epoxy. And I don't know where it came from, so that means I'm mixing it in to this epoxy, which means whatever I put it on, it's going to harden like that, which sucks. But I'll say it was an aesthetic choice. And I'm too lazy to mix it. And thank you, by the way, whoever liked the video. I know, wait a minute. I know that this is not everyone's cup of tea. Hold on a second. Stand by, fuckers. Okay. So with epoxy, this is a quick drying epoxy, so I just need to mix it for a minute or two. If you mix it really fast, you'll create air bubbles. And if you're making like a table or something along those lines, it'll have big ass bubbles in it. And you don't want that. Unless you want bubbles. But that also leads to a less sturdy surface. But you can use a torch to sometimes pop those bubbles. I made a lot of stuff with epoxy. So I'm going to do something with this epoxy that you typically wouldn't do. And I'll show you in just a minute what I'm talking about. The hard part's going to be getting this stuff back into my house so it can dry. But the wife and the kids, they're all out at Kalahari or some water park thingy hotel. Because I still have to work, so I'm at home by my lonesome. So I don't have to worry about people bumping into it and nothing like that. So we're Gucci. Okay. Almost done. And I know my brothers don't watch my streams, at least not often. All right, so it's pretty good mixed. I have a little heater going. I can always put that in front of it, but it should be okay. All right. That's about as good as she gonna get. Now again, I'm utilizing a technique that's probably not recommended. I'm actually going to paint with epoxy. I'm going to paint with it. So you can see this. I'm going to start by getting the paintbrush. Let's do that, you fucking idiot. There we go. Again, this is not typical application. Not something you would normally do. This is what I'm doing. Oh, it was ashes. Ah, whatever. Okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of this mixed epoxy. I'm just going to put it on the handle. Like so. I'm going to take my paintbrush and dip it into the epoxy. And then I'm going to try to paint with it. This is either the smartest thing I've ever done or one of the dumbest. I just want to seal it. And epoxy, if it's done right, man, it dries really cool. It dries really slick and soft. And the only problem with painting with this kind of brush, with epoxy or polyurethane, is that the bristles will sometimes rip off. And, you know, create problems. Like, stick to the wood. So I'm just trying to paint this on. That's what I'm doing at the moment. Again, not the most entertaining thing. But I polled everybody in the stream a few times, and some people said they were interested and would like to see me doing some of these things. So that's why I'm doing this stream. Not for everybody. At one point, we were talking about making some stuff and then selling it to the community for those that were interested, those that wanted a piece of, you know, something homemade from the Epic Question in the community and all that. I don't know about all that, but we'll see. Okay. All right, now big ass bristle. 2 of them. Let's rip those off. Bye bristle. Bye bristle. Okay. Now normally after I paint something like this on, I would normally use a sponge. That's why, if you remember, for those that were here in the beginning, I was talking about trying to find a foam brush. So I'm just coating the bottom. We're going to use a little bit more. I'm going to cake a bit more on here. All the way around. And again, very painterly, paint it on. Bristle came off there, so we can grab it. There we go. There we go. And have you guys played Lethal Company yet? There we go. Almost done. I think painting this with epoxy may not have been the best idea. We'll see. Like I said, the idea was to just seal the wood and make it to where it can get wet, it can do whatever, and it won't be a problem. That this will be usable in a variety of weather conditions. I will say holding it like this wasn't very smart. Alright, I think I've got the whole thing coated fairly well, I hope. Okay. So, my nose is running. Let's take a look, see if we find any what appear to be dry spots. I don't see any. So I'm going to move my vise. Whoops. And I'm going to place this. Whoop, no. I gotta think for a minute. Let me think for a minute, damn it! I want my phone to fall, so I'm opening my vise very slowly. I have my phone precariously balanced. Alright, so I'm going to set this in here. Keeps wanting to kick that way, so maybe I'll put it in like this. Okay. No, epoxy. Don't you dare. Okay. Let's give it a second. Okay, now I have to go in and do 2 things. I have to drop some epoxy here in the head of it so that can settle. I may have to do that twice. I may have to do that in 2 separate stages. What I'm talking about is right here. A piece of the wood broke off, but I drove a wedge in the top of this. I'm going to pour some epoxy in there just to prevent it from moving and to keep it gully. So let's do that. And then we'll go through and hit it a few more times with our makeshift epoxy paintbrush. Okay, so I'm going to do this very slowly. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. So I'm starting now. Slowly putting some epoxy in there. Epoxy is a very slow-moving liquid, but it does move. So if you prop it up expecting it to do one thing, there's a good chance it's going to do something else. It will. If there's a way for it to get out and drip out of something, it will eventually. It may take several hours, but it will. So I'm going back to this first little hole right here. I'm just trying to get it filled. So I may not be able to fill all this tonight, so I mix all this epoxy probably a bit hastily. Well, I do have the axe to do stuff too, so maybe not. Let's see. And let that keep filling. Again, I know this is not the kind of stream that most of you are interested in, but I'm doing it anyways because I figured, well, I'm doing this, why not film it? Again, I'm just trying to fill this little spot on this end. I may have to take these in the house one at a time just to ensure that they get set properly. Okay, coating the back side a little bit. It's hard because I have to let it drip like one drop at a time in some of these spots, like right there, because too big, it'll spill over the side. We don't want it to spill over the side, am I right, my babies? Am I right, boo-boo? The gap is bigger than I thought it was. Huh. Hopefully we can fill it without too much of an issue. Hold on just a minute. Wow, that's got a bigger gap than I thought. Come on, drip. Drip gooder. I gotta stop being so impatient. Me being impatient has created issues with me and epoxy in the past. I've gotten very impatient on projects and made decisions I wouldn't normally make simply due to the fact I'm in a hurry. Even though in most cases I'm really not, I'm just impatient in that one particular instance. So all this epoxy is really going to do in the head of this axe is provide an additional layer of security, because over time any traditional wood-handled axe or hammer or whatever is going to eventually start to slip out of position, slip out of the head. So in an effort to combat that, one, it's very secure. That's what the wedge is for. The wedge is hammered in. It pushes the wood outward. It grips it. But I'm also sinking quite a bit of epoxy in there as well for additional hold. That's kind of the idea. Now there is one other key thing I was going to do to this handle, and I just remembered now, was and I may try to do it tomorrow, was drill through the middle of that motherfucker and stick inside of it this tiny Rubik's Cube, just to give it a unique something, other than it being a beautiful handmade hatchet. All right, let's get some more in there. I've got to be getting close to filling up that cubby. There it goes. Okay, now I gotta clean it up a little bit. Having that cigarette smoke go in my eyes is not helping. So I'll set the cigarette down. Trying to fill all the crevices, which is easier said than done. This part is kind of meticulous, and I didn't give myself proper tools to accomplish this goal. So I'm attempting to do that with what I have. Stand by. Man, that's dripping slow. I need to get more on there. Here we go. Now we got some big old drippity globs. Okay. Yep, she's starting to thicken up on us a little bit. Here we go. Bear with me. You'll have to clean that up afterwards. That's okay, I can do that. My biggest concern is getting the epoxy in there first. Like I said, it's a liquid. It just moves really slow, so you may put it somewhere going, there we go, but gravity is going to do its thing and it's going to move. So if I get any on the axe head itself, I can just sand that off. That's not a problem. I'm not really stressed about that. I'm trying to fill as many of these gaps as I can. Well, that's a lot. I shouldn't put that much on. Maybe I can work it into the cracks. I'm going to try and do just that. Looks kind of cool. The shininess of the epoxy mixed with that wood. I cannot believe I forgot to drill through it. That's frustrating. Okay, so I'm going to come back here to my fancy paintbrush, and I'm just going to run over this a few more times just to ensure we got a decent coat of epoxy painted on here. Again, I'm treating it like polyurethane almost. Normally polyurethane is what you seal wood with when when it's like a piece of wood. If you ever get a piece of furniture and it's wood and it's really shiny, typically it's because it's treated or painted with a polyurethane. And the polyurethane will seal the wood and protect it. You get off of there, buddy. We don't want you. So that's what I'm doing now. Okay. I'm going to put, now that I'm holding this upright, I'm going to put a little bit more in there into this gap. And we'll see how she fills. Come on back, buddy. Don't be going in random places. Get in there. Get in that little crevice. Come on. Trying to get it into the cracks. Don't need that extra. Take this and pull it up. And onto the wood. Alright, a little bit on this back side. Not a lot, but just some back here. Again, you can't see what I'm doing, but that's alright. And then when this hardens, what is that? That's a piece of something. Get out of there. Get off! There we go. Beautiful. Try to fill that hole. We got another little hole here on the side, which you guys can't see, which I'll show you in just a second, but I gotta deal with this first. There we go. Clean that off. I'm just gonna push this epoxy down into it. And again, any of this access, you can't really see it. Yeah, you can't see it, and I can't tip it to show you because it'll spill out. I'll just sand that off. Alright, well, I'm going to set this up so I can start drying and doing its thing. And then in just a moment, we shall begin the process of doing the big axe. Come on. Try to balance it. Come just had it a minute ago. What changed? What did I do different a minute ago? Alright. That'll have to work. And then, as the epoxy starts to drift, I'll leave it like this for a little bit. See, in a perfect world, I would leave this outside, so I don't have to mess with it. It'll stay like this and dry like this. But I have a sneaking suspicion if I do, the epoxy will not cure properly. It'll be too cold. So I'm just putting a few extra drops. Okay, there we go. That's in. That epoxy is drying. Okay, now we go over to the big X. And we're going to see the best way to address the issues we're having with this. So you probably can't see very well, but in the back, there's a crack with a hole in it. So I'm going to run some epoxy here and see how it fills up. How can I do this as efficiently as possible without it falling over? Well, that's about the best we're going to get. So let me showing it to you. So this has been painted with epoxy, that's why it's shiny. And then up here is where I have been filling the epoxy in. See how it's starting to spill out and spill over onto the metal? I'll have to sand that off, but that's what I've been trying to solidify and seal. You can't really get a good look at it in this lighting. So I just want to make sure it doesn't spill onto the I'll just sand it off. But anyways, this is what I need to deal with. This hole right here. If I can get my shadow out of the way. There's a hole I need to try and fill with epoxy. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. On a side note, I don't like my job, and I want another one. It's unfortunate. All right, here we go. Okay, that was a lot. So let's see what happens here. So it's got quite a few imperfections. I need to tilt this. This is going to spill out. I need to tilt it somehow. If I could do that, it would be perfect. How did I balance that? That was just dumb fucking luck. Okay. So as that kind of seeps in, I'll put a couple more drops just to see. Right now I'm just going in to that hole I showed you guys, and I'm attempting to fill it. Alright. No, still not perfect. Far from it. And I know what's going to happen. I'm going to put a bunch of extra on here. And it's going to dry unevenly, and I'm going to have to sand the shit out of it. And when I do, that's going to get rid of some of the epoxy clarity, meaning it's not going to be as clear. So we'll see how all that turns out. Now, in the meantime, we're going to come back to our paintbrush. For the two of you that have somehow survived this long, thank you. I am shocked. And I'm going to attempt to paint a connection between this epoxy base and right here, so it has a smooth transition onto the wood. So it's not just epoxy, boom, then wood. I want it to like slide onto the wood like it was meant to be. Well, there's another gap there I didn't notice. Huh. Hang in there with me, guys. Almost done with it. Whoop. My makeshift balancing is no longer doing what it's supposed to be doing. Dang it. Hold on a minute. Stand by. I don't think we've had any chat messages, so I got nothing to worry about there. Okay. Now the question becomes, how do we get this back into a good position? Whoop. That work? Where'd all that epoxy go? See, this is why you gotta wait. Shit's filling up. Alright, gotta be slow, man. Epoxy's a drippity motherfucker. Let's fill this thing back up. Where's it going? Well, it must be filling all the crevices. That's what I want. That's what we want, so that's okay. Okay. So we'll let that settle and see where the epoxy runs. And then on this guy, I have got myself in quite the interesting situation here. I'm very curious how this is going to dry. Not realize we had that big a hole on the side too. All right, so we got a hole we got to try and patch. How deep is that? All right, that's the hole. All right, let's fill it again because I just muffed it up. Well, I didn't muff it up, but I jostled some things. Let's get a nice glob on there. Same thing in this little side hole. Up! No! Don't you dare. How did I have it balanced so good last time? this different. You're coming with me for a minute, Axe. You're coming with me. Let me grab my Grippity McGrippersons. We're going to clamp this guy to the table temporarily. And then we'll try to see. Oh, don't do that. So it's right about there. You know what? I may do this completely different. So let's do this. Let's first get it back on the table. Right? Let's do that first. Let's get it back on the table and get a grip on it. Alright, good enough for now. Get our paintbrush. Even out some of these imperfections, and the drippity drops. I may wrap this whole thing in silicone and just pour the silicone in there and hope that it fills those gaps. I might just do that. So let me try this one more time. That's probably what I should have did. I don't know why I decided to do it this way. That's silly. He's almost there. Okay, wait a minute. I see something that appears to be, that's an imperfection. I want to make sure that wasn't a rogue paintbrush hair, but it doesn't seem like it is. Okay, again, I'm just painting a transition on the wood. I'll get you guys a better view here in just a minute. Again, I didn't really plan the stream out. I just figured, well, I'm coming out here. Let me show y'all some stuff. All right, how did this drip? Okay, it's dripping, but it's filling in, so let's give it some more. Please, sir, can I have some more? Yes, sirree, get up in that little crevasse. Proud of you. Proud of you, Mr. Epoxy. And here's the cool thing. If after this epoxy settles, shit gets wonky, that's okay. Because I can sand it and we can fix a lot of this stuff. So I'm not going to stress too much. I'm going to glob some more on there. Man, I wish I could leave this out here. I am tempted to leave this outside, but I know what's going to happen. And I'll be so pissed at myself knowing that I know what's going to happen, but that I did it anyways. Do you know what I'm saying? You get that, right? There's things in life I'm sure we've all did, and we go, I know exactly how this is going to end. I know I shouldn't do it. But then you end up doing it anyways, just out of either laziness or impatience, procrastination. That's my big one, man, procrastination. That's where I'm on the struggle bus 90% of the time, dude. Oh, my coffee's probably fucking frozen. Damn it. I was going to put a lid on it. Let's chug some coffee. We're getting close, guys. Some dripping on the back end. That's all right. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at some dripping. It's just going to drip. All right, so let's light a cigarette and then talk about what we've learned today. Kovrick learned a variety of hammers and the uses of those hammers, so I'm very happy for Kovrick. Kovrick learned something. We're getting down to the tail end, my babies. We're getting down to the tail end of what we're doing here. I gotta think I'm gonna store this in the house to dry. I have silicone mats I may have to place underneath of these. Whoop. You gotta think hard. I'm very curious how my painted onto the wood transition is gonna do. I feel like I'm gonna put a little bit more on there. I feel like it can work, but then it also may be a terrible idea. But I'm already committed to it. I mean, technically, I guess I could sand it off, but I don't want to. If it does what I think it'll do in my head, it'll work out quite nice. So we'll see. Alright, the hammer's doing its thing. That's almost completely full. The top of the axe. So let's try to fix a little bit. Ow. One more drippity drop. Okay. So, one of the things I got to think about is how to get these back into my house and how I'm going to dry them in my house. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap up this fun on this particular stream for right now because my hands are really cold. This little heater ain't doing a whole lot of shit. If I get real close to it, it does. but that's too close. Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you right now on this particular stream. We're going to let these things dry, letting the hatchet and the axe dry, and then I'll come back in probably less than an hour for another stream. We're going to play some Christmas horror games. So if you want to stay tuned for that, please do. The links and notifications for all that should come on YouTube, but the very worst case, they are going to be visible on Discord. So, hey, Jolie, here's the hatchet you were at the stream for. I finished the handle. It's about done. I'm just curing it with some epoxy and a few other touches. But there it is. That's the hand-carved handle I made. She's about done. And then there's the axe I'm finishing. So that's it for right now. Love you guys. I'll be back in less than an hour for a gaming stream. So if you want to be a part of that, please come back. Again, I'll notice should be on Discord. Hopefully YouTube does its job. You get notified there too. But at the worst case scenario, you'll be notified on Discord. So I'm on 5,000 bucket. Can you guys say big? I'll see you guys in less than an hour on the regular stream. Bye. Beep boop. Bye forever.